We are back, and we are joined now by Alex Sammon, again, a friend of the show, politics writer at Slate, on his latest piece for Slate about new House Speaker Mike Johnson, entitled "Somehow There's Finally a New Speaker of the House." Alex, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And I also will say you have a piece out in Harper's that everybody should check out. And I've heard great things from Bradley, so maybe we'll have you back on to discuss that at some point, and we'll put a link to that in the description as well. But we had some breaking news yesterday, and I immediately saw your piece and thought that you would be the best person to come on to break this freak down. Mike Johnson, new Speaker of the House. Who saw it coming? I mean, seriously, I thought that they would be doing this infighting for the next few weeks, and this guy Mike Johnson is fairly nondescript, but at the same time, man, does he hold some extremist positions.
Yeah, it's such an interesting process because I think actually even House Democrats didn't really know who he was until he was the speaker. Certainly, Senate Republicans have had no idea who he was, and many of them said so after the vote. So it's not just you and I who know little about him. It's like most of his congressional colleagues don't know very much about him. This obviously was a total whirlwind where his name was floated, and then minutes later he got the job. So yeah, I think the last sort of 24 hours or less has been a bunch of quick and excited research by both sides. I think Democrats have found a lot that they think is worth noting, and obviously Republicans think that there's a lot to like. So an interesting guy, certainly.
Yeah, and the concern was, and why, there are 18 Republicans that are in districts that Biden won that are worried about their seat come 2024. And they were immensely concerned about the prospect of someone like Jim Jordan being the Speaker of the House, given what that would mean for ads that were run in their districts and his kind of front-facing association with Trump, and obviously the issues with the sexual assault cover-up, allegedly, with the Ohio State wrestling team. And so that's kind of what sunk him, right? Scalise didn't have the extremists. Jim Jordan was too extreme. No one really cared about Emmer. And then all of a sudden, this guy comes out, and Mike Johnson, got every Republican vote. But he's just as extreme as Jim Jordan. And that's the thing that I don't understand.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? He's the first Republican to win every Republican congressional vote in a speaker race since Boehner in 2011. So this is the most unified we've ever seen the conference, in theory. And right, he's not. I mean, I think that what this boils down to is he's not literally a member of the Freedom Caucus. And that's basically all that moderates the Republican moderates, quote unquote, could get out of this. And he's a little less abrasive than Jim Jordan. But, if you look through the positions, I mean, this stuff is, sort of as rebarbative and impossible to defend on a national level as anything Jordan put himself up for. It's, you go down the list, but this is someone who is basically the brains behind the Trump coup attempt. He was like the architect of that. Extreme positions on abortion, extreme positions on all sorts of social issues, gay marriage. He's not even really into legal no-fault divorce. I mean, we're talking really, really fringe positions on social issues, and every Republican voted for this, and they're going to have to wear it now. And I think, even listening to him talk in the first 24 hours, there's no substance, there's no questions answered, there's no policy brief. It's literally just, this is the time for prayer. And
that's the thing. So his extremism versus Jordan, if we're going to really try to parse out what the brands are, is Jordan is in your face on Judiciary Committee, front facing, mad at the Democrats. This guy's very quiet. He has not been very public facing, but he appears to be in the vein of religious extremism that, say, Mike Pence embodied as vice president under Trump. Is that a fair kind of conclusion to draw based on some of his statements about abortion and uh, he wanted to once criminalize gay sex, and
Right.
it seems very extreme from that
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah, I mean the evangelicals have got their man again here. So it's Pence is the Catholic, right? Mike Johnson is an evangelical. This is truly one of
Good
their
point.
own, and incredibly, I mean, just incredibly extreme on every level. And you even just sort of look at the way he's risen through the ranks of Republican politics, and was a legal champion for abortion bans in Louisiana. That's kind of how he made his name. Prior to that, he was legal representation for like a creationist museum. Like he's probably the most prominent creationist, like young earth creationist in the country now. And that's really how he like cut his teeth, was trying to win tax breaks for creationist museums. So, this goes all the way back, and you just issue after issue. It's like mass shootings are caused by abortion, and after Katrina, it was looting was caused by social degeneracy that was brought on by legalized gambling, and like it's just like obviously there are a bunch of Democratic oppo researchers who are diving through this stuff right now gleefully, but I don't even think Republicans knew by and large who this guy really, really is, or at least his track record over 20 plus years.
Yeah, I mean, were they just sick of it? They're just crying uncle and they just wanted to move on? Is that probably how this ended up happening? Or, at the same time, is he just so inoffensive on a personal level that, primarily this whole saga was born out of pettiness, and
Right.
them not being able to be petty about this guy might have been what did him, brought him to the top, although he would probably thank God for that.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's
And I think he
certainly
did.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think actually it is so simple as to say that like he didn't insult the Republican moderates to their face during the conference speeches. Like he's just not the fact that he is soft spoken is pretty much all they sort of had to hold on to here. And like more than 3 weeks into this, the alternatives that were coming up are, McCarthy reinstalled with Jim Jordan as his assistant, or power sharing agreement with the Democrats. Like the options were looking very, very dire, and there were so many people who had been scratched off the list already. I think it sort of was like, right, what else can you do? This guy can get these votes, and then you just try to spin it afterwards. And so we've seen like No Labels already put together a press call where they were like, this is not a Trump Republican. Like this is like a real sort of like moderate conservative.
Are we serious?
That's how they're spinning it. That's the approach.
I hope that, No Labels needs to go into the dustbin of history, but I don't understand that because, Lincoln Project type Republicans or centrist third way types, they seem to draw the line at the election denial, right? And this guy, Mike Johnson, was one of the foot soldiers in formalizing the efforts to overturn the Democratic results of the 2020 election in the House. Talk a bit about what his role was and how intimately involved he was in legitimizing election denial.
Yeah, pretty much at the vanguard of this whole campaign. It was, the lawyer. One of the lawyers, obviously, who worked on the legal strategy. He helped sort of build the amicus brief that the Trump team was working with to try to overturn those results. Was intimately involved with the lawsuit in Texas to help facilitate this. And so, sort of at every level of the legal strategy was there consulting and drawing it up. And then also is like totally unreconstructed on this point. Like has at no point said, oh, actually, that was wrong. Trump was wrong. There was a mistake. He still, if you listen to his podcast that he does with his wife, is steadfast in this position. So, yeah, is this not a Trump Republican? Of course it is. And in fact, Trump paved the way for him to get this position by taking out Tom Emmer just a couple of days ago. So, yeah, that's a tough sell. I think that's going to be, that really strains credulity to say, oh yeah, this guy's never Trump guy, just because I think in 2015 he said something that along the lines of like, oh, it would be great to have someone with a little more moral character or rectitude or whatever in the White House. That's not who he is in 2023.
Right. I mean, the fact that he was so dogged about it and so ideologically committed to overturning the election should raise alarm bells. Although at the same time, whoever the speaker is beholden to the election deniers in the caucus regardless. So the figurehead part means something, but in practice, it's the whole caucus that you have to worry about. And the stuff that will matter, I think, is for the Democrats in terms of a political attack once 2024 comes, and then also, of course, this upcoming issue with the budget.